It's time for the Ride or Dynasty podcast. Let's go! Welcome to the Ride or Dynasty podcast with Ryan Bickerstaff, JJ Wenner, and your host, Michael Kloss.
Welcome to the Ride or Dynasty podcast. I am your host, JJ Wenner, and joining me for the first time is my man, Eric Braun. Eric, say hello to the riders and tell them a little bit about yourself.
Hello, everybody. Like JJ said, I'm Eric. I've been playing fantasy football for 13 years now, and Dynasty for the last 4 of those. Absolutely love Dynasty. Play a little bit of IDP, some various league styles.
Nice.
I graduated from Penn State back in 2018. I say that like it's a long time ago. It's really not. I am unfortunately a diehard fan of the Washington Redskins. That one's pretty rough. I try not to think about it. More fortunately, I'm a diehard Penn State football fan. Big game this weekend against Minnesota. And I also am a bit of a recovering baseball fan and a basketball and somewhat hockey fan.
All right, at least you're honest. Well, Eric is like my other son. He and my kids have been friends since they were in pre-K. With our other friend of the pod, Nick Mirabito, host of Nicked Up, they were the backbone of many of my CYO basketball teams with my son for years. Eric did have one of the sweetest jump shots in the league. However, during games, he wouldn't shoot, and if he did, they generally wouldn't go in. Once again, it was a beautiful jump shot. All around a great kid, and I'm very happy to welcome you to the pod.
Well, thanks, JJ. Appreciate it. I'm pretty sure that's not true, but I appreciate it anyways.
Well, for our regular riders, the pod is going through a little bit of a reorganization. I think after I've been making fun of their start and sit recommendations for too long, Ryan and Michael decided to take a little hiatus from the broadcasting end of the pod. It can become a little bit too much, especially with families and school, but they both have promised to continue to contribute on the writing end, and hopefully we'll see them back soon on the pod. But remember to give us a follow on Twitter at Ride or Dynasty. You can follow me on Twitter at JJ Wenner. Eric, where are you at on Twitter?
I am at Eric Braunmower. It's like lawnmower, but Braun.
That's
very
so
cheesy.
That's ERIC for Eric, BRAUN mower. Don't forget to like and subscribe our pod on whatever your favorite podcast listening site is. And if you leave us a review, we will read it on air, no matter what it is, except I will edit out any cursing if you do so. But now, on to the news. All right, so Carolina has decided to shut down Cam Newton for the season, placing him on season-ending IR. Eric, what do you think about Cam's future in Carolina?
I gotta admit, I'm not too sure about his future in Carolina. I saw a few people today speculating about potential 2020 destinations for Cam Newton. I will say, though, that whether he's in Carolina or somewhere else, I feel like he's being a little bit overlooked right now. I don't think this is an injury where he can't come back from it. I think he's been banged up pretty much every time we've seen him on the field in the last year or two. And he's a really good player. And sometimes I think it's as simple as that he's a really good player and he's hurt and you can buy him at a discount right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Kyle Allen has looked pretty good. And that offense seems to be operating at a different level. Without Cam Newton. I mean, CMC really has benefited from Cam being out. But it is hard to imagine Cam coming back to that team next year. But I will be super interested to see where he ends up.
Where do you think he might end up?
I don't know, man. That is such a hard, people are now finding QBs in weird spots. I mean, Gardner Minshew stepped up, although he's going back to the bench for Foles. Brandon Allen actually led his team to a victory in Denver. I think there's a lot more emphasis going to fall on later round QBs. So I think there's some teams where he could definitely end up, especially teams with older quarterbacks who might be retiring or moving on the way out. But he's definitely going to find a home somewhere next year. Heck, maybe it'll be the Jets or the Washington football team.
Yes. Hey, I would welcome him. Although I still have faith in my boy Dwayne Haskins.
Yeah, well, good luck with that.
So do you think he's definitely gone?
I think he is. It's hard to imagine him coming back. If they continue to have a good season for the rest of this year, if Kyle Allen continues to show up, I can't see them going back to Cam. I could see them trading him for whatever they can get.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see that happen either.
So Deshaun Jackson went to the IR. Now, I know this isn't a video pod, but this is my shocked face. It was too good to be true. I mean, Jackson showed up in week 1 and put up 35.4 PPR points with 8 catches for 154 yards and 2 TDs, but he was immediately lost to injury. Now, it seems that this is a sports hernia, which I stress for Nick Mirabito. He loves that term. But it seems like it's the same injury that should have been operated on to begin with after game 1. He didn't have it operated on. He came back this week. Now he's hurt, and he's out for the season.
Yeah, we definitely need Nick's opinion on this, I think. I saw some people talking about Deshaun Jackson. Is he done just as a football player? And that seems crazy to me, but I'd be interested to hear what Nick has to say on that one. I do know that I'm a huge Deshaun Jackson fan. This is going to sound like a spicy take, but I honestly think he might be the most underrated receiver of the 21st century. I mean, he's absurdly good. He's, I think, underrated, because he's such a good deep threat that he doesn't get the chance to show off in the middle of the field as much as some other guys do. And I think people look down on deep threats a bit. For fantasy purposes, though, that can be tough, especially since you don't get the PPR benefits as much when you're only catching 50 or 60 passes and you're banged up. I love the fit in Philly, as much as I hate to say it. So I would be excited for him in 2020. He's going to be super cheap. It seems like somebody that if you're a contender, you need a receiver, you almost have to put him on your roster just as a super buy low, high upside play.
Okay, so would you be willing to trade a 3rd round 2020 pick for him?
I think so. I was definitely trying to buy at that price before he went back on IR for stretch runs. At this point, there's no reason to buy at that price right now. Okay. But before the season, when he's in training camp, I don't think his value is going to recover that much from this. I think he's the sort of player that will get overlooked. He's going to be 31, 32. People don't care about those kinds of players in fantasy, even though they can help you.
Yeah, especially if you're in a best ball league. Guys like Ted Ginn maintained their value for a shockingly long period of time. They might not be able to put up, like you said, the PPR weeks, but they catch 2 passes for 60 yards and 1 touchdown. That's a big week in a best ball league. So I can definitely see where you're going with that. Now, in an unsurprising move, a talented Dolphin player has either been traded, benched, or placed on IR. So after scoring 2 TDs against the hapless Jets, and I say that as a Jets fan, Preston Williams has been placed on the IR. Eric, what do you think about his future, and where do you think you're drafting him as a startup? As a wide receiver 3, a wide receiver 4?
I'd probably not be drafting him. Is that a valid answer?
That's a valid answer. So you wouldn't draft, based on what you've seen. I think right now he's the 4th highest rookie receiver right now.
I would draft him at some point, certainly, but wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4, that feels very high to me. He wasn't drafted as a rookie. He did have a pretty good senior year, but it wasn't against serious competition, and I'm not that impressed by him getting playing time on the Dolphins. They have to put somebody out there, and I know he has actually looked pretty decent and made some impressive catches, but to be an undrafted free agent and then go and tear your ACL, he's going to be working his way up from the bottom of the depth chart yet again next year, and they're probably going to have some more talent. They're not going to have any commitment to him. I have a hard time believing that in 2 or 3 years, Preston Williams is somebody that we really care about having on fantasy rosters.
Now, I have to say I love Preston Williams. He would have been an early round pick, but unfortunately he has a history with domestic violence. He was not invited to the combine and fell off of most draft boards. But, I mean, honestly, with his size and speed combination, if he can stay clean, he has the potential. Now, again, I'm saying potential to be the wide receiver 1 on a team. Now, I'm not saying like top 12 wide receiver overall.
Sure.
But I'm definitely getting him. If I can get him as a wide receiver 4 next year in a startup, I'm definitely doing it. It's a gamble I would be happy to take based on his talent alone.
Wow, so we're pretty far apart on that one.
Yeah, I hope we're in a draft together again next year.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm going to scan my roster, see if I can sell him to you anywhere.
No, I have him in the leagues we're in together, so.
Oh, there we go.
And speaking of the Dolphins, Mark Walton got suspended for 4 games. Now, you can't get suspended if you are a mediocre talent, because that just equals exit from the league. But luckily, mediocre talent is what the Dolphins want this year. So do you think he has a shot of coming back on that roster?
This year, sure, before the end of the year. But like you said, mediocre talent, a suspension on top of that. I think he's kind of getting playing time because there's nobody else. I don't see that having any long-term value. If he's coming back in 4 games, are you starting Mark Walton in the playoffs? That sounds bad. So,
yeah, I'm not
really
going to lie.
interested.
I actually just threw up a little in my mouth when you said that. So I think we can move on. Yeah, we're not really worried about him. Man, heartbreak. Paris Campbell is back on the injury list. Now, after being a round 1 rookie pick in most drafts, Paris Campbell has been a bit of a disappointment this year. He finally was healthy last week. He caught 5 passes for 53 yards. He ran the ball 3 times for 27 yards. It was everything I wanted him to be. And then he broke his hand. So for me, hopefully he's going to put this behind him and have a great, healthy sophomore season, because I'm trying to buy him on the cheap wherever I can. What do you think about Paris?
I have some mixed feelings. He feels like he really got boosted by that situation in rookie drafts last year. I did draft him in 1 league, and I don't feel like I really have a lot of faith in him moving forward there. But at the same time, I think you're kind of right that we shouldn't just move on from somebody who was a second-round pick and still isn't in a bad situation and flashed, at least a little bit, the chance he finally had on the field. So I kind of think he's one of those guys that gets stuck where you can't buy him because the people who drafted him don't want to sell him, but you can't sell him because you still believe.
Yeah, it's that no man's land, right? Where nobody wants to trade a guy when they're down, and everybody wants to trade for a guy who they think is going to come back up.
Right.
Yeah. Welcome to every league I'm in. Well, do you have anything else for the news? I think we pretty much hit all the major things. Nick Foles is getting the starting job back from Minshew. Does that surprise you?
That doesn't surprise me a ton, mostly because Gardner Minshew is an undrafted free agent. I kind of alluded to this a couple times already. Or, well, actually, he might have been a late-round draft pick. But, point being, I am not a big believer in people with little to no draft capital invested in them, and I think this is just another case of that kind of showing up where it's not so much that they aren't talented players or they can't perform when needed like Preston Williams or Gardner Minshew, but the teams just don't have that much invested in them, and the Jaguars did invest in Nick Foles. So I think the Jaguars are going to give Nick Foles every chance he can have. Then again, Gardner Minshew likely would have been the starting quarterback still if he hadn't had such a bad game this past week. So you never know, and the job may end up going back to him.
Yeah, draft capital, I mean, as far as all the statistics and all the stats guys will tell you, is everything. Once you get past the third round, the chances of hitting on a player start dropping pretty precipitously. You can't argue against the guy with that great of a mustache, but
yeah,
hopefully, you can't argue against, Nick Foles either, who's, everybody wants to sort of be like, at least guys wise. But I'm a little surprised, but after watching Gardner Minshew sort of melt down in the second half this past week, you have to go with Nick Foles. He's the guy who you put money in, and I think you'll be able to see exactly what you have in Nick Foles between now and the end of the season. And then you can just decide going into the offseason who you're going to go with.
Right.
All right. So that was news. Now, just to talk about this past week, just to finish up the episode and see what we're doing with certain players. Now, the Patriots lost this week. Were you surprised?
I was, but if somebody was going to beat them, I didn't think they were going to go undefeated, and if somebody was going to beat them, the Ravens are as good a bet as anybody. I think it just shows, you could tell right away that they were prepared for that game and that Harbaugh's a good coach who had them ready to go, and I think that's such a big piece of being able to beat the Patriots.
Yeah, it seems like no matter who they have on that team, Harbaugh seems to have a secret to playing the Patriots.
Right.
At least more than any other coach. Or at least the Ravens never seem scared. I don't know if like Ray Lewis or Ed Reed. I know Ed Reed was there. Maybe he gave them a talking to. But I guess I'd go as far to say that all that talk about Belichick's son being the GOAT in waiting as coach was a bit premature, which makes me happy.
I think that's insane, too. There's no way that's going to happen. I mean, whether he gets the job at some point or not, there's no way he's Bill Belichick 2.0.
Well, I'm sure that his dad has taught him all of his cheating methods, so he knows how to hide people in the stadium to watch run-throughs so you know the plays a team is going to run.
Spoken like a true Jets fan?
Spoken like a true any fan.
I'm a secret Patriots fan, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, that's why I never liked you. I lied in the opening. But just to say, Patriots are probably going to win the Super Bowl. But it's nice that they showed a little bit of weakness. Now, I didn't want to talk about this, but the Dolphins won this week. But, if a team wins against the Jets, does it make a sound?
I was going to say that win kind of opens the door a little bit for the Jets to, they could sneak on into that first pick.
Yeah, hopefully we can get Tua and have him suffer. Listen. When they signed Gase and Greg with an extra G Williams this offseason, the first thing I did was call my son, your buddy Matt, and say, what the hell? Like, I hate Greg Williams. I hate Adam Gase. Like, I hate the coaching staff. But if those guys are coaches next year, like, it's going to really hurt my fandom.
Yeah.
Like,
I totally know what you're going through, trust me.
Yeah, with Gruden, right?
Well, I actually really liked Gruden. I think he kind of by the end he had to go, but he didn't have a fair shake, and I just hate Bruce Allen with a fiery passion.
Yeah, I think most people do. But, so what happened to the Green Bay offense? Did you see any of this game?
Not much, to be honest. I caught some snippets, but I was very confused every time I did check in. I didn't understand what happened.
I mean, the Chargers have a good team, right? They were underperforming this year, but, I mean, they have good defensive weapons. I mean, Devontae Adams was on the field for 83% of the snaps. Aaron Jones was on for 60% of the snaps. I don't know. The Chargers really seem to be running the ball down their throats.
And maybe that's part of it, too, is the Chargers aren't that bad of a team, potentially. I I think they've kind of been, everybody jokes about them being cursed and terrible injury luck and everything, but they have a decent amount of talent. I think it just sometimes catches me off guard when they actually do put it all together.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess I did read some things about that there were some issues with Green Bay. I don't know if you saw any of Aaron Rodgers' like cryptic quotes that people weren't as prepared as they needed to be. And maybe people weren't taking this as serious as they needed to. But I'm hoping that they get this corrected going into next week. If not for the fact that I have Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones on more than one team.
Yeah. No, I hadn't seen that, but that's definitely something to keep an eye on. I know Aaron Rodgers has kind of a reputation for making some jaded comments.
Yeah, he's not the most popular person in the world, but speaking of guys who can't seem to get any attention, what are we going to do with Juju? Do you have Juju on any rosters?
I have Juju on one roster, two rosters now. I actually just made a trade for him in one league.
Okay, do tell. What did you trade for him?
So I traded Miles Sanders, Cortland Sutton, and a second-round pick for Juju Smith-Schuster in a non-PPR league, which I feel pretty good about.
Dynasty or redraft?
Dynasty.
Miles Sanders, Cortland Sutton,
And a second. Pick.
Early or late second?
Mid.
2020?
Yes.
Oof, okay. Are you competing this year?
I'm trying. Fringe playoff team at the moment. I don't think I need Juju to get there, so it's kind of a long-term play.
Okay. I can see that as a long-term play. If you had said you were rebuilding, I would have maybe believed in that a little bit more. I don't know. That seems like a lot to give up, especially with how Sanders has looked.
Yeah, I like Sanders too, or I liked him pre-draft. I don't know. We'll see. I like packaging up for people.
Yeah, me too. I like, getting a couple quarters together and going and changing in for $1.
Right.
But, this... I don't know. I mean, Jalen Samuels had 13 receptions this weekend. I mean, 13 receptions. I mean, Ben's going to come back next year, but Ben's old. How many more years does he have? Like, I just don't know what's coming after Ben. And if it's Mason Rudolph, I don't feel comfortable with Juju right now. Like, it concerns me how little they're passing him the ball.
Yeah, Mason Rudolph definitely makes me nervous, but I think he's bad enough that he won't be there long. And I don't know, Juju Smith-Schuster, he's really reminding me of Amari Cooper a lot right now. They both were super young when they came out and had a crazy high amount of production in their first and second seasons for somebody at their age, and then kind of tailed off in year 3 and year 4 for Cooper. But I kind of think that's the case where if you're putting up that many yards and touchdowns and receptions, you're overtaking Antonio Brown as the number 1 receiver at age 22. That's pretty freaking good. I don't think there are many people at all in the league, period, young or old, who could do that.
All right. I won't argue with you. But
pound the table for him.
There you go. You're pounding the table. So since you're on a roll, what do you do with OBJ?
You also buy him.
Oh, my God.
I love everybody.
I know you love everybody.
I especially love Odell, to be honest. He's one of my favorite players, so maybe I'm just biased and I won't let go. But he's another player where I'm 100% confident that Odell Beckham is super good at football. And I know that's like a really vague and I didn't provide any numbers to back up that claim, but seriously, go look at Odell Beckham's per game numbers throughout his career. They're fantastic, and that was with the corpse of Eli Manning throwing him the ball. And unfortunately, he now has the corpse of Baker Mayfield throwing him the ball, which I thought was going to go a lot better. But
we all did.
Yeah, that's been really disappointing. But I don't know. I have a hard time believing it just stays this bad.
Yeah, I wasn't a believer in the Browns offense before the season. I was a big proponent that it was going to fall apart. I thought that Baker's personality wasn't going to mesh with OBJ and Jarvis Landry. I just thought there were way too many personalities on that team to make it work. But, I mean, Baker Mayfield is certainly talking the talk right now, but his play is not where it needs to be. He actually reminds me a little bit of Alex Smith, where he has to see somebody be open before he throws the ball to him. He seems to have lost that anticipation. And I don't know if that's because they're losing and he doesn't want to make a mistake. But, I mean, you saw it with that last play in the game where OBJ clearly had his guy beat, but he threw to Landry, who was the safer choice.
It also blows my mind how often he seems to be checking down over the middle to, their fourth string tight end rather than just, I mean, I know it's more complicated than this, but seriously, throw the ball to Odell.
Yeah, if anything, Odell is known to go up and get a ball. I feel the same way, I mean, on a much lower scale with Robbie Anderson on the Jets, being that I watch them play so often. Robbie Anderson has this amazing skill to get one-on-one balls, that are, between him and a DB. And OBJ takes that to the next level. He is an amazing athlete when the ball's in the air. And why they don't give him more shots, I mean, maybe that's Kitchens, but that's disappointing. It's disappointing to watch. And I don't even like taking a victory lap on the fact that they're not doing well. I wish they would do well because that would be exciting for the NFL.
I agree.
And it's not happening. But speaking of Cleveland, are you worried at all about Chubb?
I am not. I think I keep going back to the well with this, but he's a really good football player. I think sometimes these things get a little overlooked where, I mean, Nick Chubb was in college arguably a better prospect than Todd Gurley before Chubb completely blew up his knee.
Yep.
And he still was a pretty good prospect even after that. He's looked fantastic. He's young. I'm not that concerned about him losing any work in that offense.
So now that Hunt has been activated, how many touches do you think he sees this week? Over or under 10?
Under.
You think Hunt will get less than 10 touches? Okay. I hope so. As you know, in our big league, I have Chubb. So I hope that number is way under 10 and that he keeps getting the carries. But yeah, I'm a little bit nervous because that coaching staff seems a little bit desperate right now. So I don't know what they're going to be doing.
It helps that I don't own Chubb anywhere, so I'm not really worried about it. But I actually also traded him recently. But I think, I don't know. I just have a hard time. Kareem Hunt's good. I don't think he's Nick Chubb good.
Okay, that's fair enough. So last but not least, Rojo. Ronald Jones. Bruce Arians came out and said that, hey, Rojo has showed explosiveness. He's been consistent, and that he's going to be the main guy going forward. Are you buying Rojo?
I'm kind of glad you brought up Rojo because I can finally say that I don't think somebody is good at football. He hasn't been bad this season. But I really wasn't a huge fan of him coming out, and it took 24 games for him to seem to wrangle the full-time job away from Peyton Barber. I don't think that's an encouraging sign, whether he did it now or not. Like, 24 games to beat out Peyton Barber? That's nuts.
So what are you trying to say? Are you trying to say that he's not going to be the next Nick Chubb?
Yes, that's correct. If Kareem Hunt goes to Tampa Bay next year, Kareem Hunt could overtake Ronald Jones, put it that way.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Kareem Hunt would be able to wrestle that job away from Rojo. But, well, Eric, you got your first pod under your belt. How did it feel?
Pretty good. It was a fun time. Looking forward to more episodes, hopefully can continue to offer some wisdom, help some teams. Definitely follow me on Twitter. I don't tweet too much about fantasy football currently, but if you have questions, I can guarantee I'll respond because I'm pretty addicted to Twitter at this point, so send them my way.
And you were at Eric Braun Mower. I will have that in the pod notes. And I can tell by my glass of Jameson that it is time for us to go. Remember, follow us on Twitter at Rider Dynasty. I'm at JJ Wenner. Thanks for joining us, Eric. We'll catch you next week. Boat drinks.
Thank you for listening to the Ride or Dynasty podcast. If you have enjoyed the pod, please subscribe and leave us a rating and review on iTunes. Follow the guys on Twitter at Ride or Dynasty. You can follow JJ at JJ Wenner. Ryan is at BixPixFFB. And Michael is at Michael S. Kloss. Check out our website, rideordynasty.com. And remember, we have your back.
Your reputation far exceeds your skills, Mammy.